You're about to hear a story that starts with silence and ends with laughter. Imagine this, a massive mansion tucked behind high walls. Inside, a little girl sits in a wheelchair staring out the window. She doesn't speak much, doesn't smile. Her name is Amanda. She's 8 years old, and for over a year her world has been quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that weighs on your chest. Her father, Richard Lawson, is one of the richest men in the city. His name is on buildings, his business runs oil, real estate, shipping, you name it, he's got it. People call him the golden touch because everything he touches turns to profit. But none of that matters to him right now, because no amount of money has brought back his daughter's laugh. A year ago, a car crash took his wife's life and left Amanda paralyzed. Since then, Richard has spent millions, flown her to India, Germany, the United States, top doctors, cutting-edge treatments. Nothing worked. Amanda grew quieter, her eyes dimmer, her body still. He tried everything except hope. Then one hot afternoon something changed. A boy slipped through a gap in the garden hedge. Barefoot, thin, wearing torn clothes. His knees were scraped, his hair messy, his stomach probably empty. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he wasn't looking to steal. He wasn't begging, he was looking at Amanda. And when he saw her sitting there so still, so sad, something inside him stirred, because he knew sadness. He lived it. His name was Cola, at least that's what he told people. No one knew where he came from. Some said he slept under a bridge near the bus park. Others saw him curled up in unfinished buildings when it rained. He had no family, no home, just the streets. But Cola had one thing most people didn't enjoy. When he was hungry, he danced. When people yelled at him, he danced. When the world ignored him, he danced anyway. Dancing made him feel alive. It was his way of saying, I'm still here. That day he looked at Amanda and thought, maybe if I dance she'll smile. So he did. No music, no stage, just grass, sun, and a boy twisting his arms like a clown, hopping on one leg pretending to fall, then popping back up with a goofy face. Amanda blinked. Then a giggle, then another. Then laughter, real, loud, full laughter that hadn't been heard in that house in over a year. Cola grinned. He spun. He rolled on the grass. He danced like he was performing for a crowd of thousands. And Amanda, she clapped, her eyes lit up, her back straightened. For the first time in months, she wasn't just existing, she was feeling. Inside the mansion, Richard heard it. He froze. He recognized that sound. He ran to the balcony, heart pounding. And there she was, his daughter, laughing, clapping, alive. And the reason, a homeless boy barefoot dancing in the garden. Richard's first instinct, anger. Who is this kid? How did he get in? Where are the guards? Is he dangerous? He almost shouted, almost called security. But then he looked at Amanda. Her cheeks were pink. Her arms were moving. Her laughter, wild, unfiltered, free, filled the air. Richard stopped. He hadn't seen her like this in months. He'd spent millions, flown across continents, trusted the best doctors. And this boy, this ragged, hungry boy, had done in minutes what all that money couldn't do in a year. So Richard stepped back, hid behind a pillar, watched. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something rise in his chest. Hope. The next day Cola came back, same way. Same quiet slip through the hedge, and Amanda, she was waiting. Eyes bright, hands ready. Cola lifted his arms like a circus performer. Ready? He asked. She giggled, nodded, but before he could start, a shadow appeared. Richard stepped out. Cola froze. He knew that look. The look adults give before they shout, before they push you away. He braced himself, ready to run. Amanda spoke. Daddy, please don't send him away. Richard looked at the boy, really looked. Torn shirt, too thin waist, bare feet, scars on his knees, but his eyes steady, calm, not afraid. What's your name? Richard asked. Cola. Why did you come in here? Cola swallowed. I saw her, she looked sad. I thought if I danced, maybe she'd laugh. I didn't come to take anything. I came to give something small I can leave after. Simple words, but they hit Richard like a wave. Where do you stay? He asked, softer now. Anywhere, bus park. Sometimes I dance for coins, sometimes I just dance so hunger won't win. Amanda's eyes filled. He makes me happy, Daddy. Richard looked at his daughter, her back was straight, her hands moved. And was it his imagination? Her toes twitched, a movement, tiny but real. He took a breath. Okay, you can stay today in the open where I can see you, no trouble, understand. Cola nodded fast. Relief washed over his face. He turned to Amanda. Showtime, she clapped. And just like that, the garden became a stage again. Days turned into weeks. Cola came every afternoon at 4:00. The guards were told, let him in. Richard made sure he ate before he left, and Cola, he brought new moves every day. He danced like a spinning top, acted out fights between bus drivers, made silly sound effects, fell dramatically, got up like a king, and Amanda, she didn't just laugh. She started clapping harder, lifting her arms, copying his moves, even trying to spin her wheelchair in circles when he spun on the grass. And every small movement, a victory. Richard watched, noticed everything. Cola never asked for anything, never pushed. He just danced for her, and when food was offered, he ate slowly, like someone who knew what it meant to go without. At night, after Cola left, Amanda talked more. "Daddy, did you see when he pretended to be a police siren? Daddy, today I felt something in my toes. Daddy, can he come tomorrow?" The doctor noticed it too. During a checkup, he said, "Her engagement is back. This kind of motivation, it can spark recovery. We don't always understand how, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it." That night, Richard stood alone in the garden, the space where Cola danced. He looked at the grass, the hedge, the spot where his daughter laughed, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something deep. Gratitude, not from a bank transfer, not from a deal closing, but from a boy who had nothing giving everything. He whispered into the warm air, "Thank you," and the garden, quiet now, seemed to breathe it back. Then came the day, an ordinary afternoon, sun low, shadows soft, a radio playing faint high-life music. Cola was in the middle of his slow-motion dance, moving like time had turned thick. Amanda laughed so hard her blanket slipped. Then she said, "Wait." She placed her hands on the armrests, face tightened, shoulders rose, chest lifted. Then slowly her hips lifted, an inch, then two. She held it. One, Cola whispered, eyes wide. Two. Richard stepped forward, breath caught. Three. Amanda exhaled, then sank back, panting, smiling, tears in her eyes. Silence, but not the old silence. This one was different, full, heavy, alive. Then Cola broke it. "You did it, you did it," he spun, dropped to his knees. "Champion." Richard knelt on the other side, touched her forehead. "You are brave. I'm so proud of you." Amanda reached for both of them. One hand for her father, one for her friend. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. "When he dances, I feel like I can move." They didn't tell anyone, not yet. No headlines, no cameras, they just kept going, more laughter, more practice, more tiny movements, until one day Amanda stood, not for long, 3 seconds, but she stood on her own feet. For the first time since the accident, Richard's heart nearly stopped. The guards froze, the maids gasped. Cola screamed with joy, and Amanda, she fell back into her chair and laughed. "I stood, did you see me, Daddy? I stood." Richard knelt beside her, tears blurring his vision. "I saw, sweetheart, I've never been prouder." That night the mansion wasn't silent, it was alive, laughter, claps, cheers, the healing had begun, and it started with a boy who had nothing but a dance. Richard sat in his study long after Amanda slept, papers untouched, phone buzzing, mind racing. One thought, Cola. He found him later, sitting on the back steps, arms around his knees, staring into the dark. "Shouldn't be out here alone," Richard said gently. Cola shrugged. "I'm used to it, sir." Richard sat beside him. "Not anymore." He turned, looked him in the eye. "This is your home now, you're part of this family. You'll eat 3 meals a day, go to school, you'll never wonder where to lay your head again." Cola's eyes widened. "Thank you, sir," he whispered. Richard's voice was steady. "I know what you've given my daughter, hope. And anyone who gives hope is worth loving." For the first time in his life, Cola felt seen. Tears fell. That night he slept in a real bed, under a roof, in a room that was his. No concrete, no fear, just peace. The story spread. A millionaire taking in a street boy, some called it reckless, others called it brave. Newspapers exploded. Millionaire Lawson adopts street child. Business partners warned Richard. "Think of your image. What if he steals? What if he embarrasses you?" Richard looked at them. "My daughter is standing again, she's smiling again, that's the only image I care about." Amanda said it best. "Cola is my friend, he makes me strong. If you don't like him, you don't love me." And slowly the doubts faded because people saw it too. A boy from the streets helping a girl walk again. Maybe kindness is richer than money. Cola didn't care about headlines. He just kept dancing, kept laughing, kept giving. And the mansion. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a home. Mornings started with Amanda calling Cola, afternoons, full of silly dances and loud giggles. Evenings, shared meals, Amanda teasing her dad for smiling too much. And Amanda, she kept getting stronger. With Cola beside her, she took small steps, then longer ones. She still used her wheelchair sometimes, but fear it was gone. She was living, and Richard, he changed too, not just a businessman, a father again, guiding, teaching, protecting. One day, Amanda looked at Cola and whispered, "Now I'm not alone anymore, I have a brother." Richard laughed, but inside, his heart swelled. For the first time in years, his house wasn't just a mansion, it was a home. One evening, as the sky turned gold and red, Richard stood in the garden. Amanda took slow, careful steps. Cola held her hand, her laughter danced on the wind. In that moment, Richard understood something. Money, useful, but true wealth, it's not in bank accounts. It's in your daughter's laugh, in a boy who refused to break, in the bond that turned strangers into family. He whispered, "I thought I had everything, but I had nothing until I met this boy." From that day on, Richard Lawson wasn't just known for his money, he was known for his heart. Cola wasn't the homeless boy anymore, he was family. And Amanda's story, it became a light for others. Because sometimes the cure we need isn't in a pill, isn't in a price tag, it's in a dance, in a laugh. In a friendship no one saw coming. The world kept turning, seasons shifted, rain came and went. But in that garden on Banana Island, something rare took root, not just healing, but family. Cola didn't wake up one morning and think, "I'm rich now." He didn't strut around the mansion like he owned it. He didn't ask for fancy clothes or new shoes, though he finally got them. He still woke up early, not because he had to, but because he wanted to, because Amanda was waiting. She'd call out from her room, "Cola, are you ready?" And he'd grin, tie his sneakers tight, and say, "Always." Their afternoons stayed the same. 4:00, garden, dance time, only now the dances had names. The robot shuffle, the banana peel slide, the one-legged chicken, and Amanda's favorite, the Cola spin, where he'd whirl until he fell over dramatically, then pop up with crossed eyes and a honking noise that made her laugh until she cried. But it wasn't just about fun. It was about movement. Every time Amanda clapped, her arms got stronger. Every time she tried to copy a move, her muscles remembered how to work. Every time she said, "Do it again," she wasn't just playing, she was fighting, fighting the stillness, fighting the fear, fighting the voice inside that whispered, "You can't." And Cola, he fought too, not with doctors, not with medicine, but with joy. He showed her that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a giggle after a long silence. Sometimes it's trying to stand even if you fall. Sometimes it's dancing barefoot on grass when your whole life you've only danced on concrete. Richard watched it all, not from a distance anymore. He was in it. He started joining them, not dancing, not at first, just sitting nearby, then clapping, then laughing, real deep laughs that surprised even him. His staff noticed. His business partners noticed. Even the newspapers started writing different stories. Not just millionaire adopts street boy. Now it was Lawson Mansion transformed by joy, dance therapy, the healing power of laughter. From streets to family, the boy who brought a home back to life. Some still doubted, some still sneered. A street kid raising a millionaire's daughter. What kind of example is that? But then they'd visit. They'd see Amanda not just walking but running short distances with Cola holding her hand. They'd hear her voice clear, strong, full of jokes only Cola could teach her. They'd see the way she looked at him, not like a servant, not like a guest, like a brother. And slowly, even the harshest critics fell quiet, because you can't argue with proof. One morning, Amanda didn't use her wheelchair at all. She walked slowly, carefully from her room to the kitchen. Cola was there, eating toast. She didn't say anything, just stood in the doorway. He looked up. And for a second, they just stared at each other. Then she took 3 more steps and said, "Breakfast is late. What are you waiting for?" Cola dropped his toast, ran to her, lifted her gently and spun her once before setting her down. "You walked the whole way," she grinned. "I lived the whole way." That day Richard canceled all his meetings. No calls, no emails, no business. He took them both to the park, not in a limo, not with guards, just the 3 of them, Amanda in her sneakers, Cola in his favorite red shirt, Richard in jeans, something he hadn't worn in years. They fed pigeons. They sat on a bench. They watched kids play. And for the first time since the accident, Amanda ran, not far, just to a tree and back, but she ran. And when she collapsed into Cola's arms, breathless and laughing, Richard didn't reach for his phone to record it. He just stood there, hand over his heart. Because some moments aren't meant to be captured. They're meant to be felt. That night as Amanda slept, Richard sat with Cola again. Not in the garden this time, in the living room. Cola was reading a book, something new for him. Richard had enrolled him in school, private tutors at first, then a real classroom. Kids stared at first. Whispers followed. That's the homeless boy. He lives with Lawson now, but Cola didn't care. He was learning, reading, writing, even math, and he was good at it because hunger teaches focus. The streets teach resilience and joy. Joy makes you want to grow. Richard watched him turn the page, then said, "You know, I used to think success was measured in money, in how many buildings I owned, how many deals I closed." Cola looked up. Richard continued, "Now I know it's measured in moments, like today, like your first day of school, like Amanda's first steps." He paused. "I used to think I was saving you, but I think you saved me." Cola didn't answer right away. He just looked at Richard, then said, "I didn't save anyone. I just danced." And that, Richard said, was enough. They didn't say much after that, just sat in the quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't hurt, the kind that heals. Months passed. Amanda kept improving. She still had bad days, days when her legs felt heavy, days when she cried from frustration, days when she whispered, "I'll never be normal." And on those days, Cola didn't give speeches. He didn't say, "You'll be fine." He just danced right there in her room, in the rain. On bad days, he'd do his worst dance on purpose, the wobbly penguin, arms flapping, feet sliding, falling into a heap. And without fail, Amanda would laugh. And then she'd say, "Do it again." And slowly the weight would lift, because joy isn't magic, but it's close. One evening, Richard hosted a dinner, not for business, for family. He invited Amanda's old therapist, the doctor who said she might never walk, a few close friends, no speeches, no announcements, just food, music, laughter. And halfway through, Amanda stood up, quietly, without help, walked to the center of the room and said, "I want to show you something." Everyone stopped talking. She looked at Cola. He nodded. Then she began to dance, not perfectly, not like a pro, but on her own 2 feet. Simple moves, small steps, but she did it. And when she finished, the room didn't clap because they had to. They clapped because they felt it. One man wiped his eyes. The doctor whispered, "I've never seen anything like this." Richard just stood there, hand over his mouth. And Cola, he didn't cheer, he didn't jump, he just smiled because he knew this wasn't just a dance, it was a thank you. Years went by, Amanda grew. She still used her wheelchair sometimes, on long days, on tired days, but she walked, she danced, she lived, she went to school, made friends, even started teaching dance to other kids with disabilities. And Cola, he stayed by her side, not as a helper, not as a charity case, as her brother. He finished school, went to college, studied child psychology because he never forgot what it felt like to be unseen. And every summer he came back to that garden to teach kids how to dance, not for money, not for fame, but because he knew better than anyone what a single moment of joy can do. Richard lived to see it all. The silence of his mansion replaced by laughter. The cold marble floors warmed by running feet. The empty guest rooms filled with life. And every night before he went to bed, he'd walk through the garden. Sometimes he'd find Cola there, just sitting, looking at the stars, and Richard would sit beside him, no words needed, just presence. Because some bonds don't need explaining, they just are. People still talk about them in the city, in schools, at dinner tables, not just about the money, not just about the mansion, but about the dance. The boy who had nothing, the girl who lost everything, the father who thought he'd lost it all. And how together they found something no bank account could buy: hope, love, family. And the truth most of us forget: you don't need to be rich to change a life. Sometimes all you need is the courage to dance, even when you're barefoot, even when you're hungry, even when no one's watching, because someone might be. And your dance might be the one thing that makes them believe, just for a second, that they can move again. You ever had one of those days when the world feels too heavy, when you're tired, when nothing seems to work, when you wonder if anyone even notices you? Now imagine that every single day. No home, no food, no name anyone remembers, just the cold ground beneath you and the sound of cars passing by, ignoring you like you're part of the pavement. That was Cola's life. Not because he was broken, not because he gave up, but because the world had already decided he didn't matter. Until one afternoon he saw a girl who looked just as lost as he was. And instead of looking away, he danced. No plan, no reward, no guarantee, just a choice to give joy even when he had nothing. And in that moment, two broken lives found each other, not through money, not through pity, but through movement, a silly spin, a goofy face, a laugh that hadn't been heard in over a year. That's all it took. Not a miracle, not a cure, just a boy who refused to stop dancing. And because of that, a girl stood up. A father learned to feel again. A mansion became a home. You see, we spend so much time chasing big things. More money, more success, more recognition. We think changing lives takes power, wealth, influence, but sometimes it just takes showing up with nothing but your heart and doing the one thing that makes you feel alive, even if it looks foolish, even if no one claps, because someone somewhere might be waiting for that exact moment. A kid in a wheelchair staring out a window, a lonely person scrolling through the dark. A parent who's forgotten what their child's laugh sounds like. They're not waiting for a billionaire. They're not waiting for a doctor. They're waiting for a person who cares enough to try, to say, I see you, to do something, anything to bring light into the silence. Cola didn't have a plan. He didn't know he'd be adopted. He didn't know his story would spread across the city. He just knew that girl looked sad, and he knew how to make her smile, so he danced. And in doing that, he changed everything. Not because he was special, but because he showed up. And that's the truth no headline will ever capture. You don't need permission to make a difference. You don't need money. You don't need fame. You don't need to be chosen. You just need to act. Smile at someone who's invisible. Listen to someone who's quiet. Be the reason someone laughs today, even if it's just once. Because joy is contagious. Kindness is powerful. And sometimes the smallest act can start the biggest change. Amanda didn't heal because of medicine. She healed because someone saw her. Because someone danced barefoot, hungry, and full of heart. And now she dances too, not just with her feet, but with her life. And Cola, he still dances, not for coins, not for attention, but because he knows better than anyone what it feels like to be lifted by a single moment of joy. So here's the question, what's your dance? Not literally, unless you want to, but what's the thing only you can give? What's the small act that costs you nothing but could mean everything to someone else? A text, a call, a moment of your time, a choice to care when it's easier not to, because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones, people who show up, people who try, people who dance even when the music's off. If this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something, don't just scroll away. Pause, think of one person who needs to hear I see you, and reach out, right now. Not tomorrow, not when you have time. Now, because you never know, your words might be the push someone needs to stand up. Just like Cola, just like Amanda, just like a father who finally remembered what love sounds like. And if you believe in stories like this, stories that remind us we're not alone, then do one more thing. Hit subscribe, not for views, not for clicks, but so you keep finding stories that matter, stories that make you feel, that make you think. That remind you, even on the heaviest days, that light still exists, and it often comes from the most unexpected places. A garden, a barefoot boy, a single dance. Until next time, keep showing up, keep being kind, and never underestimate the power of a single moment of joy, because sometimes that's all it takes to change a life.